Oh, well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are again. It is March what? 18th? March 18th, 2023. How we doing? Snot boy, haven't heard of you before, but I hope you're anyways. Joe, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Got a few people watching. No, again, as usual, no content except what you guys might bring to the table. I have nothing new to say. I'm not in quite such a hey buds and Mick. Um, peace, love, and all that. Don't have a lot to say. I'm in a better mood. I'm pretty sure. I was kind of in a crappy mood last week, but yeah. What's going on? Saturday evening here on the West Coast. It's sunny today. It's drying out. I think there might be some more rain coming. I don't know. We're still below average, believe it or not. And well, let's see here. Let's fix this camera. It's done with scotch tape. Sips, what's going on? Let me have a little sip. Speaking of sips, a little beverage. Wet the whistle. Loosen up the vocal cords a little bit. You don't need to see my belly. That better. So, Billy Buds, day 36. What does that mean, Billy Buds? Were you here last week? Let me put the link down. And if I don't know who you are and you're not showing your face, you gotta show your face. At least to me. Nothing new for me. Nothing new for me. I guess all my dramas kind of cleared up. Like a I don't know. I thought I had a joke. Let's see what's going on. Any questions? Anybody want to know about green bicycles? Actually, I put an ad out on Instagram. Got a couple of sales, which was nice. I think someone watching the show called up and put a nice little order in, which is greatly appreciated. Still pretty tough on the business front, but the doors are open still. They'll be open for a minute. I hope. You never know. What's good? Any questions out there? Any comments? What do you got to say? Oh, I like to hear that. I like to hear that. Yes, I think it does. I don't know. I did. Thank you, buds. I got a couple ads from yeah, anyways. Good evening. Welcome. Welcome to the show. It's not that interesting. I don't provide very good content. That's up to my viewers. But I'm glad to hear you're still feeling that happy endings tea. But what the heck? Good to see you, buds. Thanks for stopping in. You're always a good help. Provide me with some of my better sips and buds. I wonder what happened to Josh. Remember Josh? Yggdrasil Gardens. Josh, if you're watching, miss you. Loved what you brought to the table. I'm wondering how if you got any new experiments going on. Remember back when he was doing it, we were trying those different high pressure things, and he was making Frankenstein moms. I love that. Did you know? I saw. I don't know. Triggered a little tangent since you're not coming up here. Did you know? Going to seem kind of counterintuitive, but you mentioned RO water. But did you know? Um, Pure water is not good for you. It's toxic to you. Did you know that? It's not good to drink distilled water. Did you know that? True story. Water doesn't like to be pure at all. Water has a real affinity to attract minerals to it. So, like when they soften water, I think they just replace one mineral with another, calcium or sodium with high calcium, I think might be what they do with soft water. But when you distill water, you just get pure water, and you can get very pure water, but don't ever drink it because it wants minerals. So if it goes in your body, it'll take minerals from your bones. It'll take calcium and leach your bones of calcium. So pure waters are not a good thing, believe it or not. Weird, huh? Yeah, it will. Yes, it will definitely. It'll lower the EC is what it'll do, I guess. If I'm thinking what EC means, but I don't know. I just thought that's interesting. Yeah, he fell off the radar. He went south, according to his YouTube. Well, actually, anyways, miss Josh and his content because I just don't have it anymore. I'm just kind of over it. It's all about balance. Here's Billy Buds. If I remember, you got some interesting content or questions. I appreciate that. This is my content, folks. Bring up an interesting topic. I like to talk about it. I don't care what it is. Politics gets a little off the rails, a little too emotional. That's a hard one to deal with. They had a saying when I was a kid. They did. Way a long time ago, folks. Back in the day. They said, it's not polite to talk about politics or religion. And there is something to that. And that was before politics was everything was politicized. Back in the 60s and 70s, nothing, it wasn't as nearly as political it was now. But yeah, those are hard topics to talk about because you get the feels. Biochar. What about biochar? Biochar. I talk about the carbon. We're all about the carbon, salt, carbon, and water. But biochar is a good thing. I don't know how much. Maybe someone has some insight on how much like amend into your soil, but and actually I thought about this recently. Maybe someone. Well, biochar. Let's get some biochar's carbon. It's a good carbon source, right? Refined biochar, surface area. But what is I don't think it gets absorbed by the plants, but I think it helps feed the soil. But someone or helps the I'm gonna say feed or house the living things in the soil. But I'm not sure. Do the roots absorb biochar? That's a good question. Maybe somebody knows. Do roots absorb the carbon? Because I think they get their carbon from CO2 mostly. But hey, I don't know. Maybe that's kind of. I thought about that. What do you think? Does anybody have an opinion? Does biochar get absorbed by roots, or does it just help with the biology of the soil? Hey, Mr. Jagger. I think Bud's actually Dave. Buds and Hazard. The gentleman just popped up. Could you give the lineage of Black Panther or whatever? Black Panther, is that right, Dave? I think it's Black Panther. What the background on that is? Does carbon evaporate in high biological systems? Maybe the carbon, I don't know. I don't think it. I don't know what the vapor pressure of, but what it could do is turn into CO2. That's what animals do is they convert hydrocarbons into carbon dioxide. Interesting. I don't know what the question is. Run boy, how you doing, sir? Let's see. There you go. Panther blood. It's Black Panther cross sangria. Thank you, Buds. What's Walt World? What's Walt World? Isn't that's where all the... Oh, interesting. Yeah, because what gets depleted in the soil is the carbon, because it's what it is. That's what they call the organic matter, right? You want clay, sand, organic matter kind of deal. The carbon would be the organic matter. Interesting. I never really put a whole lot of thought into it, but do the carbons get depleted? Interesting. I don't know. Great question. Walmart. Walmart. Kind of almost spring, What is it? Spring in a couple of days, isn't it? How about that? We made it through a winter. Another one. Another one bites the dust. And actually, I'll be making one more trip around the sun in a couple of days. That's right. That's right. I'm not getting any younger. Let's just say that. Like I said, I really would. I don't know what that. I haven't thought a whole lot about that. The biology, what's going on here, and the biochemistry of what's happening. But there's wood chips. They have what is it? Cellulose is where you get wood, which is it's a carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen chain, right? It's like a sugar. It's a big strands of sugar, basically, but they're locked a little bit tighter. Someone else can correct me if I'm wrong. But that's where the carbon would come from, is that cellulose, I would think, because that's carbon. Um, I don't know. Great question. But I don't know, Billy. Soil shrink. Why? You know what? They don't as much. I don't know. Have you ever heard about that experience, Billy? I mean, started early tonight. I got to admit. There's this blew me away. They did, because I thought this would be different, but they planted a tree. And I'm just gonna. I don't know the exact numbers, but it would be kind of a thought of experiment. They planted a tree, a little tree. Let's say they put in, let's say, a 1 cubic foot container, and they weighed the dry soil. They planted the tree with it. How much soil took the mass of the soil, right? And then they watered the tree. And say 10 years later, they took the tree out of that container, and you weigh the tree, and it definitely got heavier, but the container hardly at all got lighter. Isn't that weird? Very little. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's like just 1 or 2% lighter than it started with. And isn't that amazing? Where does all that mass come from? Well, it comes from CO2. Kind of weird. That's my thing. But soils actually don't. They don't really. Well, they don't. When you mean shrink, like in shoplifting shrink at stores, it doesn't disappear. It can, I think, can expand and contract depending on kind of its composition, but I don't think it disappears a whole lot. You might be surprised how little disappears. But anyhow, I hope that's not too controversial subject. Oh, okay. Here we go. Dump some peat mix outside, and all that's left is perlite. Well, don't those little microorganisms, don't they kind of eat that stuff? I don't know. I don't. Someone help. Billy Buds needs a better answer than what I can give him. I don't think a whole lot outgasses them more than the water. Water can take some things up, but in general, I don't think I think they're pretty stable as far as evaporating. But I don't know. Sorry, excuse me. Good question. The birds took it for nests. LOL. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know. If yeah, well, this here, okay. How does it turn into CO2? Well, if that is, I think what bacteria or fungus. I don't want to get carried away. You know, they're an animal, right? So they take hydrocarbons, which would be the peat, and then they, use oxygen, and then they create CO2. But I think it's the animals that turn that into the CO2. That's what I think. I think that's what you're talking about. Is that that's a byproduct product of combustion. Oh God, you're gonna get up. Yeah, well, no, I don't. No, I know where my title said this is I'm the soil guy. Actually, so I don't claim to be. I've been around a lot of it, and I know a lot of different things work. But no, I don't know all of the little. You got some real interesting questions, but yeah, I think I don't think like cellulose or wood bark. I don't think it'll disappear after a while, but I think it gets broken down by fungus and bacteria and such, and that turns it into CO2 through the combustion process. I don't know. What about okay? But I don't think it defines soil. If soil is a combination, what do you call soil? Isn't it a combination of clay or organic matter and sand, something like that? Is that a basic thing of definition of soil? But yeah, if you have organic matter in something, it's going to ferment most likely. I think they usually do in the right circumstances. Good question. I don't know. I love to talk about fermentation. It actually, and I say this, not that interesting at night. Let me drop that link one more time. Um, if you take wheat germ and make flour out of it and eat it, it's kind of nasty, pasty, doesn't taste very good. But if you ferment it and bake it, you can live off of it. It can keep you nutrient. So fermentation is, I think, something that I think that's another thing. We need to eat fermented products to get vitamin K, which is real important for our health. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, if it's biologically alive, I think most of it, when you say alive, most of it is animals, right? And animals convert hydrocarbons into CO2 and energy, right? Or something like that. Believe it or not, it's the same reaction when we eat sugar and drink water and live and breathe CO2. It's the same thing that and breathe oxygen. It's the same thing kind of that a car does. It's the same reaction. It's a combustion reaction. Um, Hydrocarbon plus oxygen creates CO2 in water, something like that. And same thing, except biologically we do it in I think thousands of steps instead of one. So we break it down into tiny little pieces so it doesn't explode. But it's the same thing. Yeah. Yes, it does. Yeah, I think if there I think whatever species, fungus or what is it that makes alcohol? I can't think on the top of my yeasts. I don't know if yeast is a fungus. I don't know if it's a fungus. I don't think it's a bacteria. I don't know if it's its own little category. But yeah, yeast floating around the air, they ferment stuff. Yes, they do. They ferment stuff, especially if it's got sugar, because yeast likes to turn sugar into alcohol. That's what it does. And CO2. That's what yeast does. Yeast, yeah. So I guess it's not an animal. It'd be a different kind of animal. Interesting. Never thought about that. Oh, thank you, Ron. I appreciate that. It's a little early in the year, isn't it, back there? Aren't you still in winter? Yes, I'm pretty sure. Billy Buds. Where are you from? Did I ask you this before, Billy Buds? What part of the country you're from? And are you from like the Southern California area? Desert area? I don't know. Anyways, I don't remember. We're just racking up the viewers tonight. I'm sure they do. In fact, I've said that all. In fact, I've measured it. Actually, no, no, yes, I've measured this phenomenon in one of my test chambers that a living soil because again the animals in the soil, which are there's a lot if you're adding compost tea, et cetera, but those all produce CO2, right? So yeah, actually, and what's kind of cool about that symbiotic relationship is where does the CO2 get absorbed from? In the little stomata in the bottom of the leaf, correct? I think so. Um, so it rises up through the soil and leaves the soil and goes up under the leaves. But yes, it's a natural symbiotic thing. That's why living soils are also real important, is they actually provide CO2 to the plant locally. Isn't that a cool little symbiotic relationship? I think all living soil produces CO2. But yeah, yeah, that's one of the reasons we like living soils, and I think you can get a lot of life in the soil. In fact, I've heard statements like on the average acre of ground, I think like 90% of this protein on that acre is below the soil. I don't know if that means anything, but there's a lot of stuff in a healthy bionome. Yes, yes. They turn the CO2. Actually, the first thing, photosynthesis, is where it starts. We get a little sunlight, we get a little water, we get a little CO2, and we got this magic machine that that turns it into a sugar, a hydrocarbon, and that sugar is pretty much the building block of all the structure in the plant is and the psychoactive compounds in a plant and terpenes, et cetera, all are building blocks. The sugar is the building block for all of those molecules and cellulose. So yeah, all the plant. I always look at the analogy I always give. I think it's kind of good. Is a plant's like a factory, and the machinery of the factory needs things like magnesium and phosphorus and nitrogen, but the product of the factory only needs the atmosphere. It really only needs CO2 and some nitrogen, which ultimately comes from the atmosphere if you think about it. But with some carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, plants can make any psychoactive compound there is. Or that's what they do. That's what they're all their building blocks and what they make. Machinery of the plant, the chlorophyll that needs magnesium, right? The ATP needs phosphorus. That's the machinery. That's common to all, to plants. But they get the inputs is the CO2 and the sunshine. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's a sugar. It's like a long. Hey, hey, good to see you, man. How you been? I hope your ears weren't ringing. Are you still in the South? Yes, I do like it. Yes, it's that's okay. You got to hear it from me again if you tired listening. Um, Carbon-based life forms eat carbon-based life forms. That's what it's a carbon cycle. Any living thing is a carbon cycle. Carbon and water, but carbon is what really cycles through all life forms. And yes, we eat things that used to be alive because they have carbon in them. And yes, carbon. Interesting. Actually, it's a very interesting atom. If you look at it, or the molecules it makes, the way it behaves, it's different. than other atoms. It has different properties. But yeah, and actually a little somewhat similar to carbon, not somewhat similar. Is like what's interesting is silicon is kind of a complex. It behaves a little differently than other atoms. And what's interesting to me is that intelligence can be garnered from carbon-based life forms or silicon-based, well, stuff. But anyways, it has something to do with the intricacy of those atoms, in my opinion. I'm rambling. How long? I might only go a half hour tonight. Yeah, that's what plants do. I don't, and it's so, I think you could spend like years of study just watching like how one terpene, the chemical reaction chain that will have just to take the sugar to make one terpene, or CBN or whatever those CBDs or THC. Those are all just carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. But yes, it's yes, that's what plants. That's the machinery the plant does. It takes those atoms and disassembles them and moves them around and rotates them and adds, and that's what it does. That's the chemistry. No, no silicon. I don't think. I could be wrong, but I don't think that. I don't know. You can look real quick. Someone can look. I don't think it. I think it's just carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. I know there's some silica in some plants, and I think it's actually very important. But I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know if it's endless cellulose. Oh my goodness, but Billy Buds, you're killing me, man, with all your questions. It's not the right time. Oh, cheers. Yes, sir. I do an outdoor garden every year, Panji. How are you doing, man? Yes, I will. It's kind of easy. I just plant right in the soil. I have some pretty fertile ground, nice little patch. It works out okay. I don't think there's silicone. I don't think it is that how it's spelled. I think it's different. I don't know. Someone help me out here. Someone out help me rein in Billy Buds. Give him some answers. Buds, I'm being a little bit sarcastic with you because you're being a little sarcastic with me. But I hope you can handle it. But where are you from, by the way? There you go. What's new? Anybody have anything interesting to say? Billy, you can. What's Bisbee? I've seen that a couple times. I don't know what that means. Oh, Bisbee's tell me where you're from. I'm thinking is that where is Bisbee? Is that Australia? For for goodness gracious, Billy Buds, are you calling from Australia? That's a long way, sir. Arizona. Well, welcome. Yes, definitely. Maybe Mr. Hollow there, Mr. Hollow, Josh. Because who first of all, yeast. What is it? Its own little family, or is it part of the fungus family or the bacteria family? I don't know. What because yeast is interesting because that converts sugar. I don't know what the chemical reaction is because they get alcohol. They get alcohol out of the deal. It's a fungi. So, but yes, fermentation. In fact, I think there's a couple people in here, Buds and Hazards. if you're growing in a little room or a small tent, especially, all you got to do is you take a little sugar water, you throw in a little yeast, and make one of those little valves. So I think it's easy to do. Just take a balloon with put a little hole in it. I think on top, put it on top of the bottle, and as that thing ferments, that CO2 is released into your environment to help the plants go quicker. But like I said, if you're really cultivating a good living soil and you're brewing up some actively aerated compost teas to keep boosting the life in your soil, you're actually going to have a decent amount of CO2 in your environment that's being produced literally under the leaves of your plant. Isn't that kind of cool? Redox science is where I'm going. Billy Buds. I don't think I want to go there. I don't think I want to go there, Billy Buds. Getting deep. Has to do with oxygen, water, carbon. Yeah. Cold out there today, buds. It's kind of nice down here. Boom. So I've been a half hour. I don't see anybody. No, and I'm not just doing too well tonight. I don't have a whole lot of content. But Josh, you'll have to come on. I don't know what your reception's like where you're at, but I'd love to get an update on what's going on with you. I'm sure everyone else would. And if we could do it tonight, or we can do it, I don't know, in the near future. I have been having trouble not only selling products, but getting guests to come on my show. I don't know if it's like, man, this guy, you know. Yes. Acid versus alkaline. Ooh, push versus pull. Is that what you're telling me, sir? Billy Buds? Billy Buds, you want to talk about forces of nature? Is that what you want to talk about? Billy Buds, you know the forces of nature. Billy Buds, who am I dealing with here? Chemist, physicist. What am I dealing with? Oh, 4 forces of nature. A little science. Want to talk about science? What do you want to talk about? Well, that's actually. I think you might be thinking of. Actually even more fundamental to the sciences are the 3 laws of thermodynamics. But I'm talking about the forces of nature. Good. We'd love to see you. But anyways, if I told you this, the definition of a force, but I'm talking about science now. There's all kinds of science is weird. Like same with organic, same with like energy. Those words have different meanings depending in the context that they're used. But in terms of science, that's I've heard no more daylight savings until they do it though, right? Until they start it up again. But now I have a question for you, Ron. Is this normal time, or did we just leave normal time? Well, I don't know. Or is it this is how it's going to be forever? I don't know. Anyway, forces are pushes or pulls. Can you think of anything in nature that pushes or pulls? Huh? Can you? You should be able to think at least one, maybe 2. But I don't know. Kind of be all uppity on you. Because usually when you ask what in the four forces of nature, it's like earth, wind, fire. And they, no, it's something else. Oh, I guess you're not playing my ask a question. Yes. I now that you got me started. Well, yeah, there's a lot going on. In fact, the most abundant life form on Earth that's everywhere, the most abundant species on Earth. I don't know if it's a species, but are nematodes. They're everywhere. So they survive really well. So is that intelligence? I don't know, but I think it's very important to walk barefoot on soil. I think literally you get grounded, and I think there's electric connection. The ground has there's in fact one of the forces of okay here that involves two of the forces I was talking about. Gravity is a force of nature, pulls you to earth, right? So nature is trying to pull you to the ground, right? Why do we want to fight that with shoes and stuff? Nature wants to pull you to the ground. Whatever it is, nature wants to pull us to the ground. And not only that, when you get to the ground, there's literally that's ground electrically. It's the definition of ground is an infinite sink or source of electrons. So it's electron source or where you can lose them or gain them, whatever you need to do. And our bodies are electrical systems. So we want to be contacted with Earth. We're literally, nature pulls us to it, but we fight that. But walk on soil because it's real important to communicate with it, whether it's just an electronic communication or something deeper. Billy Buds is proof we are in motion. Okay, I don't know. You have to explain that one to me. But I know this: if you hold something up, it'll get pulled down to the ground. You stand on your roof and jump off, you're going to get pulled to the ground every time. That's all I'm talking about. It's a force of nature, and it wants us to be on the ground. Think about it. That's its job, to pull us to the earth, and we fight that as much as we can. Go barefoot. Let your toes go in the sand at the beach. Well, how much is the how how does that feel? I bet you can almost even picture this walking on the beach in the sand, walking. You're getting closer and closer, and your toes are in the sand. And it's a warm, sunny day, and you get closer, and you feel the wet sand on your toes and then you feel waves come up over your feet in the sand. You can almost feel that thinking about it, right? You know that, right? So it's how cool is that feeling? It's a therapeutic thing. I'm getting all spiritual on you. Get over it. But yeah, two of the four forces are gravity. It's an interesting force as what they under. It's actually gravity is very not really doesn't make a lot of sense. Doesn't Nobody really understands why. They can explain it, but it's a one direction force as far as they know. At least what they've seen so far. But yes, weight. Oh, that's an interesting. Yeah, there's a difference between weight and mass. That's the difference. Mass, you don't lose any mass no matter where you're at, and you lose weight depending. It's a gravitational pull. So yeah, mass doesn't change. Weight changes. Oh yes, I'm just boring the shit out of you. Oh well, it's my hour. I got 19 minutes to go. What else you want to know? The waves talk to me when I love to go get that feeling. Oh, here we go. Let's see if your face comes in there. How you doing, old man? How we doing halfway around the world? Let's bring up. I gotta put my headphones on.
Hello, good evening, g'day.
Good evening. How you been?
Good, thank you. How are you? Thought I'd join you for a smoke.
To help you, yes, please, welcome. So the last we spoke of, I think you were building a smaller house.
Oh, yes.
You were
It's all
you
good.
were in the
I can talk to you about that later.
okay.
Yes, no, it's not real impressive, but I can still show you a bit of bush.
Okay, Bush. What is that? Is that one of yours?
Yeah, pink death bubba.
What's it called?
Pink death bubba.
Pink Death Bubba. Okay.
Yeah, it's island pink crossed with GML's death bubba. It's quite good. It's very medicinal, which is what I like.
The flavor?
Oh, the flavors, yeah, it's a sweet OG flavor. It's like a very sweet, and it's got a dank and rank sort of to it as well. It's quite unique with 2 terpene profiles. Very nice. Gets me to where I want. A lot of people like it. It's probably about 25 to 29% THC. It ranges in that with the low CBD.
Are you still pretty much vaporized, or do you get into edibles at all?
I'm vaporizing. I do edibles, but I only do them in specific certainties. Where at the moment I'm vaporizing, volcanoing, and mightying.
What is what's the legal climate there in Australia for cannabis?
Well, I'm in the ACT, so you can have 4 plants legally, and you can show the cops 50 grams or 2 ounces and not get in trouble. And the rest of Australia is shit. That's it. That's the rules.
Do they have any facilities where you can purchase it?
Oh yeah. There's they've got a medical system in Australia now that's very, very thriving. It's a cash cow, and the government are selling it for. It's not private, so you have to go through the government. Of course, they've privatized. They've made it through the government, and I think it's about $400 to $450 for 1 ounce. That's Australian dollars. So it's so expensive, and like for me, I smoke 3 ounces a month. So what? I'd have to be paying $1,300 a month just to try and get meds from them. And then some of the stuff been coming through. People have been getting mold in it and seeds in it, and some of the buds have been airy, and the standards are very low. I'd call it B grade from when I was living in Canada. It's upsetting, to be honest. But anyway, at least it's a start. So that's one good thing for Australia. At least they've made a start.
So your neighbors up north, I'm not sure the distance. I don't think it's real far, but Thailand is sure blowing up as far as legal cannabis, aren't they?
Yeah, they've got another 2.5 years to go until their legislation tightens up. So yeah, it's a free for all up there. Well, I know one of my friends has gone up there.
Is there a lot of like we used to go to Amsterdam from America, was all we had in the 80s and 90s was that where we could do that for a destination. So is
Yeah.
that for us, for Aussies? Is they like to go to Thailand and get their freak on, so to speak, with cannabis now?
Yeah, it's a new market, and the time difference is low. Like you'd have to be 12 hours difference from you, so it'd be very hard to adjust climatize. But for us, it's only 5 hours difference, so we can just skip across, and it's pretty good. Our body doesn't get out of whack from jet lag.
What kind of how long does it take to fly from you to Thailand?
I've never been there. I don't know. It'd probably be 5, 6 hours, something like that. I reckon. At a guess. Actually, Australia's pretty big. Just to go to the top of Australia is probably at least 3 hours. So
Really?
yeah, maybe 6 or 8. Australia's huge, mate. Yeah, just to drive. I've driven half of Australia, and it took me 36 hours straight. I covered 33 hours straight. I covered 3,600 kilometers, which is what's that? Just over 2,000 miles. Just to get half across Australia.
That's like big as a continent.
It was challenging. Yeah.
Oh.
But how's the how's the cannabis going? One of my courses this semester is called Soil Science and Technology. So, yeah, it's been getting right into the in-depth of soil science again, which I love. Cheers. From the volcano.
Actually, it came up a little bit earlier. Like when you put biochar in the soil or you add carbon,
Yeah.
does that get absorbed into the plant, or is that just part of the ecosystem of the soil?
The biochar, it's a sterile, not sterile. It's when it's made, it is. It's a microbe housing spot, I suppose. And once it breaks down, it's really good for microbes to build their colonies inside of it, because there's little air pockets and stuff where it can build. So that's going to help with breaking down of different soil organic matter and different other particulates in the soil. So it'll exchange, and they'll do their chemical exchange to turn things into available nutrients for the plants. So with the carbon, well, the plant assimilates. What was the question again?
No, sorry? I do. That's what my instinct was, that the carbon was a good it was a good place to colonize the biology. I didn't think that was like the fine carbon particles go inside of the plant. I don't think that's the benefit. I think it's more of like part of the biome of the soil. It like enriches that.
Yep, correct. It really helps as an amendment in the soil to keep microbes happy. As for carbon getting sucked into the plant and bioaccumulating that way, it doesn't. The plant gets its carbon source from carbon dioxide. So it doesn't come from exchanging any other molecules, any hydroxyls or anything like that. It's only from the CO2.
Do you know, I don't know the exact, I talked about the experiment earlier about what the percentage of plant mass comes from CO2?
Yes.
And water.
Yep. The plant's available nutrients, there's 19 of them. And out of the 19, 3 of them come from the air. And out of those 3, that's 95% of the plant's nutrient requirements. And out of that breakdown, it's 45% oxygen, 45% carbon, and 5% as hydrogen in the protons.
So what was that percentage? 95?
Yeah, 5 is the H plus, 45 is the O2, and CO2 is 45. So as the nutrient requirements for a plant.
So so if you had 100-pound plant that grew 100 pounds from a seed, 5 pounds, the soil would be 5 pounds lighter. Would you agree with that? We got a little lockup. Oh, hey, Stony Creek.
You got me again?
You're back.
The atmospheric weight of molecules changes is like lighter and heavier. So to say that they would weigh the same as the percentages, I don't agree with that. Because if you look up the sizes of molecules that change, that the oxygen might be bigger than the carbon dioxide and that sort of stuff. So their atmospheric weight might change. The atmospheric weight is different for each molecule. So it might be close, mate, but I don't think it'd be exact.
No, yeah, I agree. Yeah, because I know what you're saying as far as each atom has a different mass, and some are actually probably 3 or 4 times phosphorus and such are going to be pretty heavy compared to hydrogen for sure. Right, 30 something.
Or the metals.
Yeah,
the zinc.
Metal. Yeah.
The zinc and the other different types of metals, magnesium and those types of ones that are needed for the plant, they would have a higher molecular weight.
Yeah, they're not getting any of that from the air.
Correct. Yeah, it's only 3 elements that come from the air. The other 16 come from how you administer it, and most of that is from the roots, and then you can also slowly foliar feed it. They do absorb through their dermal tissue and other layers in their phytothodes and things in the plant's tissue, in the phyllosphere.
So, what is what's the mechanism for foliar feeding? Is it worthwhile? Can you feed nutrients to a plant through its leaves?
Oh yes,
Yes.
it works very well. The only
Very.
thing is, most of the shops have got their dilution rate wrong, so a lot of people fail with it. It's the quickest way to eliminate deficiencies, as long as it's not a mobile element. Remember the three immobile elements in the plant, and that's your boron, your calcium, and your magnesium. So the other ones are very mobile, so they can transport easily. So you can eliminate deficiencies really well through foliar feeding, and you'll see a change, especially in nitrogen. It'll happen in probably overnight. The difference, if it gets into its phloem, which the phloem speed, it's two vesicles in the plant. You've got your xylem and your phloem. The phloem speed is approximately 3 or 4 feet every 5 hours. So it's pretty fast. So if you can get it in there, it'll transport those nutrients around to where it's needed, and they'll do the processes and suck in more chlorophyll and green up.
Okay, well, so I'm gonna run this because this is what I used to do when I wanted to green up my plants. So I'd take a gallon of water, I put in I'm gonna say an eighth or a quarter teaspoon of fulvic acid, about a quarter teaspoon of humic acid, and then I would use an amino acid complex, and then mix like a quarter teaspoon of that. And this is all in a gallon, and foliar feed with that. And it seemed to work really well. For especially for greening things up. I don't know how much of but I don't know if you would have thought that was too much or too little, but it worked when I used to do that. It was actually a nice little greener upper if I needed to.
Nice one. Yeah. I like to measure mine. So I'll go on particles per million or micrograms per kilo, and then you can see how much it varies, and then you'll know how much, I think it's a 100 to 300 ppm mix of a nitrogen substance if you've got a nitrogen deficiency, or magnesium. You might give some of that. What's those salts? Those bath salts, which contain 12% magnesium in it. Epsom salts. Yeah, they contain. And inside of that is only 12%. So you're only getting 12%. So that's where you might have to give a little bit more, because you're not giving a purer form of it.
Yeah, I think it's majority Epsom salt is water.
Yeah, I know from my notes, it's got 12% magnesium, because that's how I eliminate deficiencies. And I like to have, as bad as it is, a non-organic substance, probably like it's an inorganic substance, to eliminate foliar deficiencies, because it's accurate. I know exactly what it's getting, and so it'll happen fast. I don't want any other salt residue laying on top of the leaves to slow down its metabolism, through photosynthesis.
Would you spray on the bottom of the leaf, the top, or both, or what?
Top. I just do the top. I don't do the bottom, because the bottom is where the stoma is, and all the stomata, they're its breathing pores. So if you go and somewhat block that, it might struggle to breathe. So I just do it from the top.
Also, dark too, isn't that true? Foliar feed in the dark cycle. Foliar feed during the dark time.
No, that's a myth.
You think that's a myth, eh?
I know it's a myth, mate. I've proved it. There's nothing about it. It's a myth. Sorry.
I haven't done a side by side, so I'm going to go with you. I like
foliar feed a lot, so I'm telling you, that's one I can stand by. It's a myth, and I can explain it to you if you want. Why?
Explain it, please, so I can.
Well,
I want to know. School me.
A lot of people, they'll go and put big droplets on it until it runs off the leaves. No, you want to mist it. So there's little molecules there that aren't going to evaporate fast and leave all the salt residue, and they're not also going to make a prism out of the rays and maybe put a burn underneath where that big molecule is sitting. So there's the two things that people do wrong. So if you just micronize it, any time of the day, middle of the day, brightest as lights, no worries at all. I've done it lots and lots of times.
So the issue is the lensing of that water droplet, right? Because it would be a lens for sure. It would focus the light. So it's a mechanical damage then is the issue of doing it with bigger droplets in the day.
Well, you'll see the results after that. So you can do an experiment. Put a big droplet, do one leaf, little, do the next leaf, massive. And you might see white residue rims around the leaves on the massive ones. You also might see a little bit of dechlorination underneath it. Might be a little bit shadier of light green. That proves what you've just said. So do your own tests.
Okay, I will.
Yep.
I have Josh.
But
There's another gentleman. There's another gentleman down in the green room, Josh. But I need to see your face because I get too many people showing their peepees. I need to see your. Do you got your camera working, Josh? I don't know, buddy. I got to see your face because honestly, I get rocked sometimes. But there's this guy. I don't know if you ever met Josh. Yggdrasil's Grow. He reminds you guys would. I think you guys would have great conversations. I know I do. He was what he did, which I like his idea. He grafted different or female a mother plant with other strains, so you could have one female with different strains come off it. Just kind of novel things like just fucking around and doing stuff. And yeah, this high pressure system that he developed. Is it for the pump in? I don't know. Interesting, very interesting gentleman. Anyways, as I said,
well,
what else is
grafting onto clone plants is good for people with plant counts because it eliminates, it helps maintain your legal status, so you can have 5 cultivars on one tree and then whatever, I've just got one, he's sitting here, and you pluck off whichever one you want. So that's advantageous for doing that.
I don't know. I'm going to let him try to come. I'm a little nervous because I'm sure. Anyways, we've all seen this before. If it's bad,
I'm going to go soon anyway.
Is that you, Josh?
Yeah, it's me, man. I'm having a hell of a time. I got a new phone, and I'm having a hell of a time logging into my accounts.
Okay, well, I hear your voice. I remember it. How you been?
Been pretty good, man.
Good.
Gardening season started early out here in Florida.
Yeah?
Yeah, got my zucchinis and squash. They're going. Peppers are already started. My tomatoes are doing real good. About to get some fruit.
Awesome. No, I think I bring you.
It's been a while.
No, it's been a while. I bring you up once in a while because I missed some of our conversation. But another guy. I don't know how he stumbled. Gentleman with us, Aussies down in Australia, and if you have any questions about the science of it, he's one of my go-tos. He has a lot of knowledge on this stuff.
Well, this semester, I'm studying soil science and technology, and I'm going to do a talk next week on compost. I did a talk yesterday on microbes and the relationship they have with the plant soil, and that was pretty cool. That went for nearly 2 hours. It was incredible because I just get excited with microbes because they rule. And I explain their processes on how they work, what they do, how they scale down, why they will fire up at different times, why they won't, how you can eliminate it, how you can make that enlighten that, and how to use them to the advantage, what the beneficials are, and all that sort of stuff. So I really went into it. It was excellent. Hope it gets monetized.
Oh, fantastic!
That's the same.
Fantastic.
Josh, don't you do similar things?
Oh, absolutely. And I've been messing around with different technologies to help control the expansion of the different colonies, So like if I want to expand the fungal colonies, how can I do that when I want it done? And how can I, maybe increase the bacteria? I've been doing that in microscopic air droplets or droplets of water that are suspended in air and then blown up through the soil with positive air pressure. And you can pretty much dial it in based on your airflow to moisture ratio, what your fungal colony is going to be like or what your bacterial dominance is going to be like. So in doing that, you can take it through the succession of the species and then you get the die-offs and whatnot. So
fairly
large plot.
Okay. Sounds good, mate. I'm not going to get involved in it. Glad you're having fun.
We lost. I think we lost him. Someone also asked about CO. I believe you have a good biologically active soil. You're going to get some CO2 generation just from that. Correct? I've measured it. So
Yes. A measurement of soil, of how active your biosphere is through CO2 respiration. So what you do is you'll get a pot or a CO2 meter. You'll put it in a bag. Oh, you'll put it in a bag. Jesus Christ. And then you'll put your meter in too, and you'll see what your respiration is. If it's up around 1,000, you know you're doing good. If it's below 400, you know you've got some you want to increase your microbial count. Yeah, and soil maintains that, like the atmosphere.
Oh, I'm losing you too. No, but I can't hear you.
So you.
But I know they have. I know on big farms like cornfields or whatever that they have CO2 meters like on stakes that are planted around that tells them, yeah, that's how they met, secondhand measure the growth rates is like how things are well or working is by measuring CO2 in the environment. But yeah. Josh, are you back?
Yeah, I'm here. I didn't go anywhere. I was waiting for him to. He started to talk, so I was waiting for him to get into what he had to say.
Yeah. Okay. Let's ask him. I think, did he have any input on what you were talking about?
You're looking for an enrichment culture. Basically, that's what it's called. I started to get into that yesterday. YouTube doesn't like me talking on how to make things, so I skipped past the enrichment cultures. But you need enrichment cultures for particulates that you're looking for different species or genuses that you're trying to enlighten. So if you want to enrich your nitrifying bacteria, you might go and give them what they need. So they'll need three things. They'll need electron acceptor, electron donor, then they'll need their vitamins and minerals to get around. So if you get the right things that they want on that chart, they will proliferate, then they'll start and increase their numbers. By increasing their numbers, if you here's an example on how fast it can go around the world. Within 48 hours, one microbe can cover the Earth's surface 4,000 times, 4000, if you put it in its right conditions. So by giving a microbe in its right conditions, it has its chance to keep budding, and then it's proliferates and it just expands. That one expands into 2, that 2 expands into 4, the 4 expands into 6, to 8, and it just keeps going and going out like that. So you have to need enrichment cultures for different particulates that you're trying to grow.
Right. Well, right. We're talking. If you're looking at the whole buyout, though, you're increasing it. You're basically increasing your aerated soil profile. So those microbes have a larger profile in which they can find the right conditions.
No, microbes don't move around. Their lifespan is a dot on a piece of paper. So if you get a piece of pencil and put a dot on it, that's the lifespan of a microbe.
We're talking about reproduction rates.
Okay.
Talking about reproduction rates. Yeah, reproduction rates and locations, availability. Because you're increasing the respiration throughout the soil profile. And the problem with it is moisture content. When you have soil that's too aerated, the root fast. So you can fix that problem, maintain proper aeration with proper saturation. You get the optimal conditions for microbial, life.
Yeah, they all require a certain amount of activity water level. Yep, and they, like some of them, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, that won't germinate until the 65%, and then you go up. Bacteria are above about 85%, where they really like. So there's certain levels, activity water levels, where they will proliferate at. That's where you meet those conditions.
So that's where the pinpoint control of those conditions within the whole soil profile becomes beneficial. And then you've got the fungal colonies that work synergistically with them. And you talk about how bacteria don't move. I would argue that they do. They move within the fungal colonies. The fungal highway with soil. And the hydronic effect of the water moving across the top of the surface of the cellular structure, that global river for these microbes to move through. And
Yeah,
you can witness this. You can see it with the microscope.
I said before, they get vectored round, but their lifespan is a dot. If you've
Sure,
got worms in there, the
but
worms are going to vector around and carry
that
them
tells
around.
what their lifespan is sufficient to their function, right? So the what they in their lifespan, they facilitate the need they need that they that's required by the system. So we look at it and we say it's a dot in time, but it was a lifespan and it facilitated its function.
Okay, I got a bit lost there.
Well, because we're looking at the function of organisms, right? They're working with other organisms, the interactions. So to say that it is, to be diminutive with these, with its lifespan being just a blink, it's really not. That's only relative to our perspective. Its lifespan was long enough to carry out what its niche is. You understand what I'm saying? So by
that's how
creating
microbes
optimal
work.
conditions for that cycle to occur, that's the idea.
Okay. Is there any other microbe stuff you want to ask? Try to discuss, or maybe anything before I go?
Just
Josh, did you have any thoughts on if you can control it, how do you want to control it? Is it you change it during the different growing
yeah, during the now this is something that I've been working with for a while. I can't say that it's totally dialed down, but it's in accordance with the growth cycle. So based on where the organism that you're working with, like say cannabis or whatever plant, you're going
Cannabis
to
is all I work with, so yeah, talk cannabis, please.
Okay. So with cannabis, you're going to want to look at its location and the types of soil, the types of microbes that are going to be present. What kind of symbiosis does it require? Does it like a slightly fungal dominant soil? Whatever. That's going to be your baseline of where to start. Then you have to look at the period of time that you're dealing with. When do plants germinate? The atmospheric conditions in the location that the plant grows during seed germination is what you want to set your initial system up for. And you want to run those favorable conditions for the first 2 weeks. Then it starts to change. You start to harden it off, so to speak. You decrease the moisture content, increase the aeration, and you'll find your plant during the vegetative stage will grow quite vigorously. And by bringing it through the cycles, you tend to have a less need for any type of inputs as long as you have a high carbon ratio. One of the problems I found is if you don't have a high enough level of browns in your system, it tends not to function quite properly. So it requires a little bit more carbon. Then
the ratio is 20-25 is to 1 carbon to nitrogen.
Are you talking in the soil?
It's between what you want. Yeah. Because if you have too much nitrogen, the microbes will eat it up too fast and they won't do what you'd like them to do. But if you have the good balance, it'll balance it out a lot better.
Right.
I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you
No. I'm agreeing with you. That's the science of it. But if you're increasing the exchange rate of the atmospheric gases within the soil profile, you're going to have a higher metabolism, you might say.
Yeah, but
more carbon is going to be
microbes, don't
necessary
forget,
for
they start using electron donor as oxygen. Once oxygen is depleted, then they'll go into nitrate, which has an oxygen molecule in there. Then they'll go into the sulfate. So there's plenty of these molecules that are still around that they can use that aren't oxygen.
Yeah, most of it would be nitrogen. It's like 98%. of atmospheric gases is nitrogen.
79%.
Yeah. It's a large amount, but
You knew that. Oh, fuck. Thumbs up. No, Aussie. This is what Aussie looks at formally, right? I mean, academically, scholarly. You do research into this stuff. Like you take this. Aussie, I know, takes this very seriously, and he's, so.
still I'm listening to what he has to say. I'm trying to just articulate what I have done. I'm not an academic, so
No, you you are in a way, and we've actually done side by sides with this system, and it did. I forgot the percentage, but it was definitely in an improved system on a side by side. So there was some evidence that what he's talking about worked, but I didn't understand the mechanics behind it. But
Josh, you're on the right path. You're involved with microbes. You're doing studies with microbes and research with that. I really hope you write down all your experiments, because that's the difference between science and non-science, is writing it down. And the microbes rule, and you'll find some really good results and interesting results, but you have to keep changing things to get different results, and fail some experiments to teach you lessons and stuff like that, which I've done. So hats off to your growing techniques, and keep up your good work, Josh.
and if I'm not mistaken, Aussie, don't you use microbes to manipulate terpene profiles, or is that hush hush stuff we don't talk about? Or you've looked at that, like you're actually.
Yeah, there's two pathways for trichome production. It starts off with the JAS1 gene, which is how you want to activate it. Then it goes to the MYB1 gene, the MYB gene, and then it's to the COL1 gene, and then it goes down and breaks off. And if it's acted on its cascade signaling pathway, after it's gone through those gene signalings, it'll be one into defense and one into trichome production. So if it was stimulated by a bug bite or something, it'll go into defense and produce a different terpene. And if it was stimulated by a jasmonic acid, salicylic acid, some sort of allelopathy that it's received from the air, it'll go and produce a different type of terpene production. So that's why you can get different terpene productions out of the same mother plant of the plant, just by altering microbes and stuff too. Over.
Bam. There was a whole lot said just then, but that's very cool stuff. So yeah, he takes it seriously. So when you mentioned, can they get salicylic acid or whatever mentioned from the air, you were saying?
Yeah, it turns into a methyl, methyl, and then they'll pick up that in their receptor, and then that receptor will change it back to salicylic acid. It goes into a methyl signal, which is the volatile bit where it changes and it goes into a volatile airborne. So it warns all the other plants around it. So that's how you can, these are cool breeding stuff that you do to give you fungal resistance and all sorts of other resistances in your genetic line that I've done.
So salicylic acid, that's probably something you wouldn't want to add to a soil, would you? As a or a foliar?
Well, it's got salicylic acid that simulates. Is that the drought one? No, it's abscisic acid. Yeah. It would simulate the plant's immune system. It triggers that. So that's which would, therefore, it opens up the pathways. Instead of it into the growth pathways, it'll change into the immune pathways, because the plant's got 35,000 genes. So it'll activate all those genes in those pathways and stop your growth patterns. So that's why when your plants get sick, you don't see any growth, because they're just trying to repair through their immune system genes.
So I imagine it's like, I've been learning more about like humans and how hormones affect what happens to calories. It's like it completely determines on how a fat cell gets bigger or smaller. So what hormones they control all of that.
Yeah, I did a speech, a lecture 2 weeks ago on hormones and in plants hormones. And yeah, you're right. You can change every growth stage, the 8 different growth stages of a cannabis plant can be manipulated by hormonal changes. And if that plant makes it, that's its hormones. But if we give it to it, it's a growth regulator. That's what it's called externally.
So like the fruit, the shoot making fermented products from shoots where you're getting those.
Cytokines.
So are those, and then you think that's a worthwhile thing to do for that? Like that would be a hormone, right?
Yeah, cytokines are. Yeah, I use kinetin out of the cytokinins. There's about 100 different types of cytokinins that you can get, and I use the kinetin one out of that one to try and manipulate different growth stages. But you've got to be careful because it's so strong. Like this, we're talking in nanoscale here, which is 9 decimal places. So it's not microscale. It's really, really fine. So when I do it, I'll put, where's my little, I've got a scoop that I made up, which counts grains. So I pull out granules, and I might put 9 granules into this experiment type of stuff. So it's really, really fine. But I've got a high, it's 91% grade starting product.
So
Depends
what
about,
is that synthesized or is extracted?
Yeah, it's synthesized. I'm pretty sure it's not a natural form of it.
So do you believe in like making those from fermented fruit juice and all that kind of stuff?
You'd have to extract it, and you might, in the extraction process, I'm not much into chemistry, but you get a lot of stuff you didn't want to get in it. So that's why I just buy it.
Expensive?
It's cheap. No, it's real cheap. I get a little packet. I buy it by the gram, and it's like $20 a gram, like something like that. And that gram will last me ages because I only use little tiny amounts. I've learned the hard way. And if you put too much in, it causes other processes to go out of whack. It's like giving a human a wrong dose of steroids. Similar, things just go out of whack. And like when you're doing tissue culture is all about hormones and manipulating different growth patterns. So that's good to come back to and talk about that, really, because if you put too much auxin, you'll get too much roots, you get too much cytokinins, you get too much shoots, and if you put the middle of them, you get a nice chunky callus.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out that one's tough. So you mentioned briefly, there's eight cycles of a cannabis growth.
Yeah, that's what I reckon, something like that.
Do you have you fine-tuned it down to like which hormones for each cycle, each section?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
I'm not elaborating on that one.
No,
I did an assignment a while ago, a big assignment on what every hormone does at different growth stages. I did the assignment on cannabis. So I've got it all written down, and mate, there's some unbelievably valuable information in that. But I haven't shared that paper. Sorry.
Can you read the screen?
Yep. The role of salicylic.
Someone has words like you do.
Abiotic stress with emphasis on heavy metal something. On the role of salicylic, and so they're saying that it has a role in abiotic stresses. Well, that's what it is, because a biotic stress is something with living organism. Bio means life, so that means it's a living stress. But an abiotic, the A means not, so it means it's not a living stress if you break it down in Latin. So that's what this form of administering is. And gibberellins at different times aren't a stress, they're a stimulant. So I don't agree with that one. Where salicylic acid is pretty much, it's a stress. Sorry, over. But interesting. I like those types of discussions.
You're a fountain of information. I love when you come on here. Thank you for coming in, Josh. Got any questions?
I'm just digging and absorbing everything he's saying. The hormone production in plants is fascinating. The way my brain works, I want to break it down to, as natural as I can get. And I'm not talking about natural in the sense of not using synthetics. I'm talking about what process does a plant experience in nature that causes these hormone releases. And it's fascinating because there's definitely a chain of events that takes place. And if those chain of events happen, you're going to have a good product, whether that's indoors, outdoors, or anywhere else. And mimicking that's that to me, that's like a beautiful thing. So
Well said. That's exactly right. The signaling pathways are what I'm interested in too, because if you can control traffic lights, turn ones off and turn ones on, well, you've won the battle. So by knowing which pathways, like I explained before about the trichome production pathways, if you know those pathways, wow, you can skip a few things. Like there's some of my studies have led me to do that. So I'll go to right to, instead of the JAS1 gene and the MIB gene, the Nicole1 gene, I will go and give a element that's the COL1 gene. So that means the plant only has to do one signaling pathway to get to its end target. So that's something that's highly focused on for me. It's so well said, Josh.
that is it's a nice little hack, man. That's brilliant.
That's what, yeah, I talk each week. It's my show's Aussie CC, one word, on YouTube. It's blocked a lot by YouTube because I only promote cannabis stuff and I'm out in the open about cannabis, and I put it in my titles, which if you put cannabis in a title, they demonetize you bad. But couldn't give a stuff because that's what it's about. Safe use of cannabis is what I promote, and the safe practices as well, and the safe growing. So I only promote all the organic practices and safe use, really. And I'll discuss them all in detail and show slides from my university just to get the point across and answer questions in detail so the person understands, not just me understanding.
Fantastic.
No, actually, Buds, if you're out there for somebody, can you put Aussie's, find his address and put it in the chat? But it's like he has it spelled on the screen. So if you do a search on YouTube, you'll get him. But no, it has a great show, knowledgeable, as you can tell.
And next week's compost. So I'll be breaking down all the different constituents in compost and showing all the different slides about that, because the reason someone just asked about compost, and I started elaborating on it last week about the different, like you said, the moisture levels. You need 60 to 80% for good moisture when it's.
Just when he got to the good part.
Just when he got to the good part.
Yeah, the money shot. Interesting guy though, huh, Josh?
Fantastic, man. Great guest.
No, I think I brought him up to you. I said, I knew you guys would click a little bit.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, we lost there.
80% moisture compost.
Oh, 60 to 80%. That's the range you want it in. If it goes out of that range, the microbes don't like it and they don't perform as well. And you want it to be 30% when it's curing. So there's not too much microbial activity. So everything should have already broken down. So, but I'll be going into all those different pathways, and also the temperatures, what that does, what the airborne oxygen and the CO2 and stuff does, the gas constituents, just breaking it all down. Then into the chemical side of it, what all the humic and fulvics do, and the humin and that sort of stuff. Yeah, just to get the points across, I'll show some slides, and just to make that easy. Oh, thanks, Buds and Hazard. Just to make it easier, I'm this week my lecture is on compost. One of my lectures is on that too, so I'll just be repeating a lot of that too. It'd be good.
I'll check it out.
Welcome.
Yes, it's worth a watch for sure.
All right, well, nice meeting you, Josh, and it's always good seeing you, Green Gene.
As always, Aussie, I love that you could come up here and share your wisdom. And now it's something's good's going to happen one of these days. I don't know my business. I don't know. I've complained a lot about it. It's not good for me right now. I've actually.
Oh, that's not good. Well, I'm still looking for some work because I'm still poor as.
Poor AF.
Yep.
I'll be with you, but keep in touch, and yeah, thank you for coming on. And you gave me great content, and I appreciate that. And tune into his channel. I think we had it up there. But when's your next show? When's your next show?
It's on Friday night in North America. I think about 5 p.m. It's around that time. In Australia, it's Saturdays morning.
And they're all archived too, so you can go back and look at any of them, right?
Yeah. Yep, they're all. And you have to scroll into it. I give a disclaimer and stuff, and then I wait a bit. So if you get skip 5 or 10 minutes in, you'll start and see slides, and you'll start me explaining how they relate to cannabis. All these agriculture and soil, plant science, microbes slides that I show, how they're the benefits out of our cannabis plant.
No, yeah, there's a lot of videos, A big word. I'm gonna use a big word. A plethora.
Hey, Josh, you might like my cannabis senescence video, which didn't get monetized, but it explains all different pathways. And I do go into, remember I said I didn't share my hormones? Well, I shared them once in that video about how to extend or early finish a crop. There's a few different gases and a few different ways. You can do it by wiping leaves with cytokines, by emitting ethylene into the air through various techniques, just to manipulate the early finish or the late finish of a crop. So you might want it early finished if you have to move house, for instance. You might want it late finished if you're you want the buds to be bigger. So there's a few different. That's one thing. Over.
There you go. I know.
Anyway.
I look forward to future talks. But I've been up here and my bladder's bigger than the show, or smaller than the show right now. Does that make sense? Thank you for coming up. What time of day is it there, just offhand?
It's about lunchtime.
And you're going into fall.
It just come out of summer. See, summer, autumn. Yes, fall. The leaves is going to start to change soon. It's still pretty hot here. We've got a heat wave on the east coast of Australia where most everybody is at about 100 F through the day at the moment. It's pretty hot.
It's 100 AF, what I say. Okay. Yes. Peace. Good night. And I'm going to sign off, everybody. Go get a good night's sleep. And thanks for tuning in. Come back.
See ya.